Good morning. It's nice to see your smiling faces this Friday. This is the last day of our virtual conference, and this is our Industry Initiative Day. I'm Julie Broadway, president here at the council, and we're glad you could all join us. I'm hopeful that we have some non-members of the Alliance with us today so they can learn a little bit more about what we're doing and our new strategic plan and hear about some of the exciting things that we have going on. Hopefully you are seeing my screen that shows a slide. Yay, okay, good deal. Of course, I should make certain we've been using a lot of different technology. We're using Zoom today. So you have a toolbar that has a chat box. So if you have a question, throw your question in the chat box or raise your hand feature, and we'll try to recognize you. I'm hoping this will be a fairly informal discussion. So I encourage Dave and Jamie and others who have been part of this alliance long before I came to the Horse Council to chime in if I miss an important fact or a piece of information that we really want to make sure we highlight. So here's my plan for this morning. We got an exciting session. For those that aren't very familiar with the Marketing Alliance, I've got a little bit of background information. I want to talk a little about our latest strategic planning process, what we went through, how we got where we are, and then I want to show you, for those that haven't seen, I want to show you the what I call the outcomes from that session. We've got some new things going on, some new strategies, and I want to highlight some of those. And then we have two marketing agencies that are going to give us a presentation. Now, I'm going to just be right up front with you and tell you that we heard from a number of different organizations who wanted to give us a proposal to work with us on this. And we're down to two. And I actually polled a couple of members of the Alliance to see if I needed to have both of them come today or could we narrow it to one. But, you know, different techniques and different personalities and different approaches. So I really wanted to see if we could get everybody to hear both of them. And then we'll have some time at the end to sort of debrief and sort of figure out where we want to go and which one we want to proceed with. So that's my little outline. I've got 30 minutes planned up front for these couple of slides that I have. And then our first agency is going to join us at 10:30. They have 20 minutes to present their proposal, and I've allowed some time for Q&A. And then they'll drop off, and the second agency will join us at 11. We'll repeat that process. So when we get to 11:30, that leaves us 30 minutes as a group to sort of talk through what we've heard and see what we want to do and where we want to go. So I'll quickly say, Dave or Jamie or Jen, if you're on here, anything you want to throw in at this point about that?
Julie, I think that sounds great.
Okay. Well, here we go. So if you are new to the Marketing Alliance, let's talk about how this all came about. So in 2011, there was an executive forum that was done by Pfizer, now Zoetis. It pulled together leaders from all across the industry, and the hot topic was, how do we revitalize the industry? We had gone through what was the Great Recession at the time, and everybody was scratching their heads. We saw that registrations were down, memberships to associations were down, participation was down at shows and competitions. So what could we do as an industry? So that turned into the formation of this coalition, which we call the Marketing Alliance, in 2012. And the first couple of years that we had this going, we went out and hired Patty Colbert. Everybody knows the dynamic Patty Colbert, to come in and tell us how she foresaw we might do this. So the first few years, we really focused on taking horses to people by identifying groups that would bring horses to events or expos for people to sort of test ride. It was extremely well received. I'm going to say lots of kudos about that, but it really proved to be a bit challenging trying to get people to bring horses, find horses that were sort of quote unquote bomb proof for the casual person to get on and ride. And it was quite challenging from a cost standpoint. So the next iteration of this project was to come up with what we call the Time to Ride Challenge, which incentivized barns to host an open house, invite people in their local community to come in and have an experience with a horse. The barns that brought in the most people were eligible for some prize money. And it was extremely successful. We documented that we exposed over 135,000 people to horses. But what we found was that those people would come for a first visit, but they didn't sign up for lessons and they didn't come back. So there wasn't what I call word stickiness. It just really didn't seem to sort of get into their skin and get them to stay with us. And we decided that we wanted really to create long-term participants and new horse owners. So maybe this approach was not quite as effective as we would have hoped. Now we go to 2018. The Alliance got together. We heard some presentations from Take Me Fishing and Go RVing and Professional Golf Association's First Tee program. And we felt like what the First Tee was doing sounded like it might be something that we should pursue. So the third iteration was to create certified facilities, which in addition to meeting some standards, offered a series of lessons to try to create that stickiness. So they couldn't just be a certified facility and say, come have a lesson. They had to have a packet of lessons to try to do that. So I think this was very well received. The first year that we did this, we started off slow, but we had a large number of facilities that signed up to be recognized as Time to Ride facilities. Then we get to 2020 and the pandemic comes along, and that sort of threw a complete kink into everything that we were doing. A lot of people, because of the restrictions, couldn't offer riding lessons the same way they used to. So we didn't have as many facilities signing up. We also heard that when people finally felt comfortable wearing a mask and social distancing and barns were allowed to reopen, that because riding is inherently socially distant, that there were a lot of waiting lists for people. So we weren't seeing facilities signing up to be Time to Ride certified. So this was a really good opportunity for all of us to sort of step back, take a breath, and say, you know, we haven't done a strategic planning exercise in a while. Maybe it's time that we really dive into the data. We really talk about where we are as an industry. What does the trends tell us? And where should we go from here? So here's my next slide. So early this year, we formed a strategic planning task force. Jamie Kinnear from Purina, Dave Andrick from Equine Network. Is that right now, Dave? It's Equine Network now, right?
That is correct.
Okay, good. Jen Grant, who's from Zoetis, Chris Jacoby, who's from Spalding Labs. We had two of our Time to Ride certified facility barns send representatives, and that was Chris Richardson and Christy Parker, who you see listed there. They came from actual participant point of view. Patty Tyberg, who was at AQHA, Gary Carpenter at National Reining Horse, Teresa Woods from the United States Pony Club. Taylor joined us from Troxler, WF Young, and myself. And then we wanted an outside facilitator. It's really hard to do strategic planning when you're trying to delve through the data if somebody else isn't sort of leading. So we were very fortunate. Kathy Aum, who's the CEO at the Professional Association of Therapeutic Horsemanship, volunteered her time to help us with this process. So that's who the task force was. And the first thing we did was we sent out a survey. We surveyed all the Alliance members and partners. We surveyed all the participants. We surveyed the American Horse Council Board of Trustees. We asked everybody to tell us and answer a series of questions about what was working, what wasn't working, what they thought we needed to be doing, where we should be going. And then in addition to that, we did a huge research project. We just tried to find everything that we could to tell us what were the trends going on, what would be affecting us. So I just listed some here. We looked at what was the overall horse population. We looked at industry participation. We looked at breed registrations and transfer numbers. We looked at how association memberships were going. We looked at migration trends. This was a really interesting factoid, and Dave could probably speak about this more than I could. But what we heard clearly was during the course of the pandemic, with people being able to remote work, that we were seeing a huge migration out of urban areas to rural areas. And that was resulting in people having more time and more resources and adopting horses. In the recession early on, we saw a lot of horses that were abandoned or turned over to rescues. But in the pandemic, we were seeing the opposite effect in a lot of areas. We looked at youth sports trends, what was going on there. We turned to the outdoor recreation roundtable and the outdoor recreation industry and said, what are trends you're seeing in outdoor recreation? We looked at horse adoption trends. Then we tried to get our hands on sales data. You know, what's going on with trailers and fencing and feed and whatever, helmets, whatever we could find. And we met for a series of 6 meetings, about an hour, hour and a half each time. And Kathy led the way. So kudos out there if Kathy's with us this morning, to her for helping us navigate through all this. So here's what the result of all that was. So we decided that we needed to write a new purpose statement. And our purpose is to create lifelong engagement with the equine industry. So some of you have heard me say our first round at Time to Ride was really focusing on getting people to get on a horse, butts in the saddle, as they like to say. And we had a nice conversation around the fact that we want to create lifelong engagement with our industry. That doesn't have to be in the form of sitting in a saddle. That could be in the form of spectating. That could be in the form of volunteering. That could be in a lot of different forms. And, you know, we don't want to exclude the racing sector. So it could be harness racing, lots and lots of different ways people can be involved in our industry. So our new purpose, creating lifelong engagement with the industry. And then we came up with this set of goals. So our first goal was really, we need to educate the public on the benefits of a connection with a horse or an equine. And the way we want to go about doing that was to create a marketing and education plan. So that's why we're going to hear from these 2 agencies this morning. What's their vision? I don't want to go so far as to say that that it's going to be as significant as Got Milk or one of those types of catchy, you know, kind of slogans. But we're hoping that they'll come to us with something that we think will really resonate and really cause people to think about interacting with our industry. So that's part of the challenge that we posed to these guys, was to come to us and tell us how we might get there. We want to use what comes out of this marketing plan to help us go out and secure greater sponsorship and partnerships so we can do more. So as you can just imagine, if you are part of Go RVing, the RV industry has millions of dollars to put towards campaigning to get people out in RV. We don't have that kind of resources. And so we rely on people that want to come on board, be part of this initiative through a sponsorship or a partnership. And we need some more marketing and collateral to make that case. So that's about building the story, building the message so that we can go out and secure more resources so we can do more. And then thirdly, we want to drive consumers to the website. So now we've educated them, we've told them what the benefits are, and now they need to know where to go to take advantage of all these things. So we want to build a website that is going to offer pathways to help connect them. It's going to offer different kinds of opportunities like volunteering or events that they can attend. It's going to have educational content. It's going to offer everybody a way to be involved by having various pages that everybody can be part of. It's going to offer maybe even sort of a quiz that they could take to help them determine where to go and what's the right fit for them. We are talking about really making sure we have a strong search engine here. That's where Chris and his team have come into play. And we really want to talk about ways that we can link in with others so that everybody is a part of this and everyone has an opportunity to be a participant in the overall brand and the message that we're trying to build. So anybody questions at this point, comments? I've heard from a couple of the different folks that are really, really excited and looking forward to seeing what it is. I did have one phone call with someone who said, is the current Time to Ride website going to disappear? And my answer is no, it's going to stay right there and do what it's doing and hopefully continue to do that well. What we are not doing is out there beating the bushes to get new facilities to sign up to be Time to Ride certified facilities. We're going to put a pause on that, but it's not going away. It's going to stay right there. So people who still want to see that great content, still want to use that search to find somewhere to ride near them, all that is still there on the website. Anybody want to chime in, add anything? Okay, so I'm doing pretty good. I got 10:20 on my clock. So here's sort of the next steps. So we contacted and interviewed 4 agencies, and I'm going to give a big shout out to Jen from Zoetis, who's our expert marketing person on this this task force, to help put us in touch with some really great agencies. Some of them were in a little bit of a quandary because we're sort of a small client, and so maybe they couldn't do it for the budget that we had, or maybe their timeline didn't mesh with ours, whatever those constraints might be. But we've got 2, I think, really good proposals to hear today. And I'm going to pause. I think I've got maybe a question. Woohoo, says Jessica to Jen. So that, yes, thanks. Woohoo, Jen, that's right. So what you're going to hear today is 2 presentations. The first one is from a group called Yamamoto. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. And I'm really excited to hear them tell you a little bit about themselves and their credentials, and then walk you through their process and what they would do and how they would go about this and what would be the deliverables. So when we're at the end of this, what are we going to get to move forward with? This is what I call phase 1. This is creating the plan and sort of the top level stuff to allow us to go out and do some solicitation for greater sponsors. So you guys know, I've met with all of these a couple of times to sort of get them acclimated. I've given them the background materials from the strategic planning process, so they sort of know where we came from. I have asked them to try to execute phase 1 in 90 days. Now that's a pretty aggressive schedule, but Jen and I think that's doable. And my rationale is, here we are in June. So 90 days would be July, August, September. The reason that's important to me is a lot of the organizations that we want to go talk to about putting funding towards helping us with this are going to be working on their 2022 budgets about that September, October kind of time frame. So we need to make our case and get in front of them so we get some money in their 2022 budget. That's the reason for the 90-day timeline on this. So that's what I've challenged them all to do. So you're going to hear first from Yamamoto. Please, please, please feel free to unmute yourself and ask questions of these groups. That's the purpose of this exercise, for you to hear them, see them, get a good feel for them, ask the questions that you have so we know where we want to go with this. Then you are going to meet the folks from Hyphenated and hear a similar pitch from them. Again, same process that we are talking about for them to tell you a little bit about themselves and how they go about it and ask questions and that kind of thing. Jamie, Dave, Chris, Melissa, I think most of you on here got a chance as members of the Alliance to see their proposals beforehand. Did anybody have a comment or a question before our first one joins us in about 8 minutes or so?
Not for me, Julie. Just looking forward to hearing them both talk. That's great. Thank you. And nice job setting this all up.
Jen, you're out there somewhere, I think. If you want to comment, you know both these players.
I am out here.
There she is in the car or the camper.
I'm in my not so mobile office. It has been grounded for the last 15 months, but it's still wonderful to have a little separation of church and state. So Julie, thank you for the kind words. You said such lovely things about me that I feel like now it's only downhill from here as you all continue to get to know me. But this is my I'm in 5 months into my role as head of marketing at Zoetis, and couldn't be more excited as both a marketer and a horse person to have the chance to be part of this amazing strategic planning exercise. My background is in strategic planning, so we get to combine personal and professional passions and help with this kind of tremendous industry level initiative is just a complete dream come true. I think Julie, you did a beautiful job of covering all the key points. I'll just emphasize that from our standpoint as Zoetis, I think it's really fantastic that we as an industry group are thinking about some of these bigger questions, because I know all of us think with our individual hats on, whatever section of the industry we're in, health, nutrition, feed, tech, different horse supplies, different breed organizations and industry organizations and so on and so forth. But we all know that, a rising tide benefits all boats, and a shrinking one could moor all of them. And so, making sure that we continue to have a strong and passionate pipeline within the broader society in terms of engaging with horses, I think is just such a tremendous opportunity that benefits us all, and that I don't think any one of us could do on our own with our marketing budgets, but together really creates an opportunity to make an impact that serves us all, and also serves all the poor, unlucky people who today don't know how amazing it is to have horses in their lives, but will hopefully find out as a result of this effort. So both agencies you're going to hear from, I've worked with in some form or fashion in the past. I think they bring, I think if we had no presentation and flipped a coin and said, whichever side comes up, we'll pick that person, I think we'd be in a great place. Fit is as important as everything else. So hopefully you'll get a chance to get to know some of the players and just feel beyond professional skill sets, who feels like a great partner and champion for us, but really strong strategic capabilities. Yamamoto, you'll hear, has some deep horse background already. And I know Kathy, who's their president and CEO, is a passionate equestrian herself. Adrian Barrow, who leads Hyphenated. I don't think he's a horse person yet, although perhaps he can be one of our first converts through this exercise. But I do know that he has a tremendous background in sort of launching change-based initiatives that drive, different kinds of behaviors at a segment or industry level. So I'm as excited as y'all are to hear the presentations, and just thrilled that we as an industry are thinking about these bigger picture questions.
Hang on one second, guys. I'm hearing from one of my presenters saying they're trying to find the Zoom link. There we go. Hopefully that'll take care of that. I just wanted to add one more thought to this. When I spoke with both of these groups, I had a little bit of an overlay that I wanted to tell them. We've talked about bringing more young people into the industry. We've talked about moms and their role in decision-making, that kind of thing. We're seeing a lot more seniors get involved in the industry, lots of opportunities there. As we've gone into this whole diversity, equality, and inclusion of, conversation of late, I strongly urge them that we need to be more inclusive in our industry so that we want whatever this message is to resonate with anyone out there who might want to get involved. So they have some of that kind of thoughts from me. I encourage you to share your thoughts with them about, who that is. But I really think it's a great opportunity out there for us to come up with a message that would resonate with just anybody and just open the doors and create more opportunities for people to get involved. So anybody else, comments, questions at this point? Okay.
I would say, Julie, thanks for the summary. I think it was a really good overview. And when you look at it all in context, I think we arrived at a really cool place, and it's a logical extension of where we've been and where we want to go. So I'm for one, I'm really excited about this next phase because I think it will really take us to the next level. And as you said, the things we've done in the past are not obsolete. They're building blocks to get us where we got here today. So from that standpoint, I think it's a great progression. It shows that this whole thing is dynamic, and hopefully we have the finger on the pulse and take it to the next level. So from that standpoint, I'm looking forward to these presentations and the next phase. Thank you for that.
Yep. I think Kathy has joined us. Let's see if she's out there somewhere. Maybe she's connecting right now. There she is. Hi, Kathy. Good morning. Just while Kathy's getting herself organized, I want to ask Kelly to cut on her video for a minute so you guys can put a name and a face. Kelly Chapier is our Time to Ride Marketing Alliance sponsorship solicitation person. So, hey, Kelly, you out there? Show yourself. There she is.
I'm here. Good morning, everyone.
So Kelly's on today because she's going to be an important component of us figuring out how to sort of do some of that next phase of outreach that we want to do. Kelly, just real quickly, tell them how many contacts you've made trying to pitch Time to Ride so far.
Hundreds and hundreds over the last couple of years. Probably before the meeting started this year, I probably had about 100 to 120 sponsorship packages out to different meetings and stuff. Some of them I would get a response back just saying, we've completed our budgets. And I sent out things in November last year for 2021. So I try to catch people at their correct budget times and stuff. But a lot of times I didn't get responses, but some of the answers I got a lot of times was they weren't understanding exactly what we were trying to do. So I think some of it with some education and some publicity will go a long way for people to understand what the Marketing Alliance is trying to accomplish.
Thanks, Kelly. That's what I really wanted. I really wanted them to hear that from you because you and I have been talking about it a while.
Right. Thank you.
Great.
Thanks.
Thanks,
So
Kelly.
Kathy, are you ready now? Well, Kathy, we are delighted to have you with us. I am just going to let you do an introduction of yourself and Yamamoto and take it away. And you should be able to screen share.
Awesome. Well, thanks everybody. I'm thrilled to be here this morning. I have a few slides that I'm going to share with you guys. We actually came to know you via Jen Grant, and she was kind enough to introduce us to Julie. So Julie and I have been in contact here, I guess maybe the last month or so. And we're really interested in helping you guys put together the next iteration of Time to Ride. So in order to do that, we've put together a proposal that I thought I would just share. To get started with that, I thought I'll just tell you a little about the agency so you know who you're talking to and where I am and all of that. And this will maybe take 10, 15 minutes. And I thought we could just have some conversation after that with any questions you guys might have. So let me see if I can get screen sharing to work. Okay, so let me just tell you a little about Yamamoto, and then we'll talk specifically about this project. So Yamamoto is a Minneapolis and Chicago based brand and advertising agency. We're 43 years old this year. And our core focus as a company is really helping brands sort of refresh and refine their value prop to kind of unlock the potential that they bring to market. We have sort of an interesting story in that we are a fully owned subsidiary of one of the agency holding companies. And our holding company did something really neat 2 years ago. We essentially kind of regrouped into smaller little pods. So we're technically in a group of 6 other agencies, which now bring kind of the full strength of strategy, creative, advertising, digital, social, PR, you name it, we have it. And we're able to bring sort of best of breed expertise. I'm the CEO of Yamamoto, which is the organization that we're talking about today, but I have access to a real wide group of talent, which is kind of a cool thing for us to be able to talk about. We are serving a bunch of international clients, which isn't relevant for this, but we got boots on the ground kind of all over the place. To give you a sense of just the kinds of things we work on, because sometimes that helps just sort of ground in our conversation. We have a fair amount of animal health, animal nutrition business. We tend to work in 5 key categories. So consumer goods and services, some sort of construction related stuff, health and wellness, bunch of tech, and a lot of outdoor and enthusiast kinds of work. Specifically in the animal health space, across our group of those 6 agencies I was just mentioning, we have lots and lots of pet experience. In our agency, we have a lot of equine experience in particular. I am an owner rider. As Jen knows, I'm actually, if you can notice, in riding attire at this moment. The agency's closed today. And I have volunteered myself to go do a cross-country little clinic, which is beyond my skill set, but I'm gonna do it anyway. So lots of experience in the feed space. Maybe more importantly for this is the nonprofit world. So I sit on 2 boards of organizations that we as an agency help. We additionally have worked on a number of organizations. Animal Humane Society has been a huge part of our background, where we have invented a program called Feed It Forward for Cargill, which is a grants program designed to support 501(c)(3)s that are rehabilitating animals and then allowing those animals to have good human connection so that the sort of animal human ecosystem advances. And that's something that we create inside the agency and helped Cargill get launched, I guess maybe now 3 years ago. So that's been a lot of fun. So the ins and outs of equine, we know fairly well, certainly the nutrition and science side, we know the nonprofit space well. And as we were thinking about this particular initiative for you guys, one of the things we thought might be helpful is if we helped you sort of kickstart the new campaign concept and put it together in a way that would allow you the opportunity to go sort of sell it forward. And we're willing to help you guys do that as well. So before we get to that, let me just give you a couple more details. So we as an agency tend to be, sort of digitally oriented. The world is sort of digitally oriented, so that probably makes sense to everybody. We are still doing a fair amount of traditional advertising. We do a lot of brand and design work and a lot of experiential and events work. So for Cargill, for example, we're on the ground and working with the Wrangler Network. We're working with all the folks that are on site at events like WEF, rodeo finals, you name it. So across disciplines, we're creating events and activations for folks to get involved with. So as we think about for the American Horse Council, how do we get more spectators, more volunteers, more riders, more engagement in total? The ins and outs of a lot of those venues and events where we would have contact with those folks were likely there today. So we work in a process we call Go Time. It's pretty straightforward: go explore, go create, and go forward. And essentially what this allows us to do is kind of think about work in manageable bite-sized chunks. So this go explore piece is strategy. This is work that we would do together, and we would do it on a fairly accelerated pace. And so what we would want to do is get input from all of you and talk about where you've been, what's worked well, what hasn't worked well, what barriers do we still need to overcome, and sort of triangulate where the market is, where we're having success and seeing, kids back riding, parents back riding, grandparents back riding, and then, what else do we need to do to surround that activity to try to make that stick a little bit better. So that'll be kind of workshop style sessions that we would host. with all of you to gather input and sort of formulate a new idea about how to go forward. The middle section is go create, pretty straightforward in what you think it is. So that would be creative concepting. We would bring probably somewhere between 3 and 5 ideas to you that would be based on the strategy we would have previously agreed to. And then together we would select something that you think would be the best bet. And then what we're suggesting is that we would help you develop that to the point in which it was sort of pitch ready. So as you're going and calling on organizations that you want to participate and help advance this, we would help you put together sort of that pitch deck, if you will, to take that forward. And then ultimately, and probably as a separate scope, if you want, then if we sell it, everyone loves it and it's ready to go to market, we would come back and say, okay, what's it take to get that executed? And then that probably would be a separate step.
Kathy, just FYI, a couple of people are wondering if you are trying to advance the slides because we're not seeing them advance.
Ah, well, they are advancing on my end. So let's do that. You can't see anything moving, huh?
Nope, just see your first opening slide right now.
Well, I've had so many pretty slides. All right, let me stop sharing and see if we can get that going again. Are you seeing these move at all?
Yep, there I am. Mhm. And beautiful picture too.
Okay, good. All right, so let me just make sure you saw a couple of these slides. So current client roster, I think it's important to just kind of scan that. So that top line is sort of foods, goods, services. You'll see some equine brands up there that you may be familiar with. And then I would draw your attention to some of the outdoor and enthusiast stuff. So those are kind of the main places in addition to team experience on animal health. So again, I'll let you just kind of scan those logos. Really, the reason to show you that is just a confidence building piece to say, okay, from veterinarians to pet food to nonprofit programs to sponsored rider types of initiatives, been there, done that. And then in the nonprofit space, there's all kinds of organizations that we've worked to support. It's a part of our culture and our community. We've worked really hard to select agencies that our organization collectively sees value in. We do tend to be pet and kid focused for the most part. And it's an important part of our being happy and feeling like we're contributing back to the universe. So it gives you a sense of some of the organizations that we've worked for there. Okay, I won't represent that because charts are charts. So this is that process piece. So go explore, go create, go forward. That's kind of how this work would map out. The proposal that I'm just going to walk you through here in a second is go explore and go create. So those two main pieces. We do have a studio in-house. And so the good news is when we think about pulling, creating something new and, making it sort of pitch ready to sort of take on the road and share with other organizations that you'd like to hop on board, we can help you guys create content. These are folks that we have physically in-house. There are no out-of-pocket costs, I guess, short of buying any photography that we would need. But we can do a lot of work to create a really impactful program. Lots and lots of equine experience, which I shared with you. Some of these are brands or programs that we've invented from the ground up. I'll draw your attention to the upper right corner, which is this program I mentioned called Feed It Forward. This actually is a really interesting effort. We've traveled around the country and we actually are doing short little documentary films on organizations that we've given money to, and essentially we are presenting those organizations and the impact that those animals are having on human life via web and social primarily, and are asking consumers to engage with us. I will say it's been the single best thing that's been done for the brand. Certainly we talk about feed and all that other stuff, but really helping people find a way to horses in particular has been really powerful. So I think those insights will hold true here. We have lots and lots of folks across disciplines and breed groups and all of that have a love for horses. I think capturing that spirit and then trying to figure out, what are the concentric circles around that sort of core horse person that will allow us to sort of reach a little further, till we can have an expansive program that meets your needs. Okay, so now the slides get less pretty and you'll probably hope that I cannot share them. But I think it's important to just talk through these groups. So Go Explore, as I mentioned, really is this strategy development phase. And what I think we would like to do is just do some investigations, hold a couple meetings with you guys, gather input. We probably want to do some one-on-one meetings as well, just to make sure we really understand your point of view about where you've been, what's worked, what hasn't, what your wish for the next iteration of the campaign is, and then we'll consolidate that feedback and host a workshop for all of you. So to bring all those points of view together and bring some strategic thought starters to the group. Then from there, we'll go away and come back with areas of opportunity that we think exist, have you guys buy in on that, new sort of strategic value prop, and then we'll go forward with some creative concepts. So immersion session is that meeting where we all kind of come together. We'll do some stakeholder interviews. Those would be the one-on-one pieces. And then we'd come together in a workshop style format, likely virtual, likely a couple hours long. Again, we will bring materials ready and we'll moderate that session. And essentially, this whole process is designed for all of us to be aligned and going in the same direction. So everybody feels good about what happens next. So here's where things get lots more fun. So this is the creative concepting phase. We'll start with, so once we've agreed on strategy, we'll start with what we call mood boards and mantras. So sort of a written idea, a visual look and feel, and we'll do a few of those. And then we'll present that to you guys, and then everyone can kind of say, I vote for which ones. We'll refine and get down to one idea that everybody's liking pretty well. And we'll blow that out into really sort of key campaign elements. And then what I'm calling sort of a pitch deck or a value story that tells the American Horse Council story, tells the new campaign story, shows some of that work. And then I think it'll probably have to be done sort of in chapters. So if you're calling on a corporation, that storyline might be slightly different than if you're calling on USEF, for example. So we might have that core story written, and then we'll adapt it for each major sort of sponsor presentation that you have. I think that would make that easier and better. And then we'll probably do some sort of a campaign sizzle video. So I showed you Go Studio, which is our in-house studio. We'll create something for you that could be in the front end of a presentation that really brings that idea to life and is really fun and gets people excited. Likely the first element that you show in that meeting, and then, maybe 10, 12 slides that really bring the initiative to life and show folks what that could be like. So that's kind of the plan. Our hope was that we could kind of follow along with you. We're happy to help you sell it if you want. We can help you prepare materials to support different kinds of organizations if you'd like. And then once you see the outcome is, let's say you have good traction and everybody says, yep, I'm in, I want to participate in that. My understanding is then at that point, we would decide, okay, we're actually going to make that work. And we'll actually launch it. So the final creation and launch of those materials would come as a second scope, so to speak, but we'd basically be at a point where we're ready to pull the trigger and develop it if there's enough support for it. So the way that we're thinking about this is a really heavily discounted exercise, because we'd really like to help you work on this. I think it'd be a lot of fun. Our team's really excited about it. So that first, just to give you some contrast in what it would normally be. So I'm suggesting $10,000 to get through all of that strategy, the workshops, and be ready to kick off creative. That's usually more like a $60,000 to $100,000 activity. So we're more than willing and happy to really help you guys get this going. And then in the Go Create phase, that's same deal, maybe in the 80 to 100 range normally. There's a little bit of a heavy lift because we will have to do copywriting, we will have to do design, and we'll have to make that video. So what we were hoping for is a small portion of your budget up front to get all of this created, and then we'll see where that goes. And hopefully it's a really positive response. And then we'll come back and talk about how to launch it. So that's kind of where we're at. We actually, I'm not going to flip through this too much, but we actually have done a similar thing for the US Tennis Association. The Southeast group came to us and said, hey, we don't really want to follow nationals rules. We actually want to develop our own campaign that's designed to get people to donate funds to provide equipment so we can get more kids playing tennis. So we did a similar kind of thing. It's not the full deck, but let me just flip through it. So we did a sort of a strategy statement. What are we really trying to do? We came up with this sort of insight of, giving kids more opportunity. And then the idea was called this rigged game. And it's kind of hard to see on this, but essentially it shows what would happen if the kids didn't have the equipment they need. So the whole concept was return the love, and it's asking people to give money to support kids playing tennis. And then they took that on the road and sold it in basically to their national organization. So that gives you a little bit of that's not really what they took forward, but it gives you a sense of how that might work. I can send Julie this full deck. There's a whole bunch of equine case studies in there if you just want to see more horsey related things. There's lots and lots of it to look at. So, and Julie, I can send you that in a box link because a lot of those files are too big.
Yeah, I bet they are. That was great. Thanks, Kathy. I really appreciate that. Okay, guys. So my clock says we've got about 10 minutes to do some Q&A. So I'm opening the floor to see what questions you guys have got for Kathy and Yamamoto this morning. Who wants to start? And this is not usually a bashful crowd, Kathy.
Does that clear? Does that make sense? Does it feel like it meets your needs? Is it enough? Is it too little?
Yeah, Kathy, good morning. Thank you for the presentation. Could you go into a little more detail on the Go Explore portion of the process, like get the, kind of interviews and conversations, but how those workshops have come together?
Yep. So normally we'll do what I would call sort of competitive analysis, not really the right word for this, but we'll look at your business and marketing plans. We'll look at all kinds of programs that are similar in nature to what you've done. We'll look at the current program that you have going. We'll talk about the kinds of organizations that have been involved, the ones you wish were involved, and just try to build a framework that says, okay, here's where we've been successful. Here's where we'd like to get more traction. And then we'll help you develop strategies to say, okay, how do we take what's worked well, build and add audiences and groups to really, kind of expand. So if we're now thinking more broadly about, we just want economic impact. So if that's volunteers, if that's attending an event, if it's riding, what are the dimensions that we want to explore? We'll do a bunch of homework there and get your point of view. And then essentially we're going to bring back to you in presentation format, workshop style exercises to say, okay, here's what we know. And then, oftentimes we'll do a sort of a keep, let go, add kind of an exercise to say, well, what do we need to do now to be successful in the next iteration? And for that to be true, what do we need to keep and what do we need to let go? That kind of a thing. It might be some comparisons to other similar campaigns to say, how might we be perceived as similar or different? And are we different enough that organizations are going to go, you know what, I want to go that way. That seems like the best for our organization. If you're the racing organization, or if you're the Appaloosa Breed Association, or whomever those groups might be, how can we start to think about a campaign at the highest level that can be tailored and meet the needs of those specific organizations? So that level work we'll do and Go Explore. So when we get to a final strategic point of view, we'll know as a team that that's going to flex, sort of up and down and wide enough to meet the needs as you go forward. So my understanding, I guess, is that in Time to Ride, the riding specific piece is slightly narrow in the sense that there's other ways and other audiences that could potentially be involved to sort of open the aperture for engagement with horses in general. So if that's true, and we as a group have a commitment to sort of make that wider, what do we need to do and say to make that work? So however all that comes together, we're going to come back and facilitate those discussions with you guys so that everybody's voices are heard and that we're, triangulating and making that work together. Does that make sense?
Thank you, Kathy. Yeah, that's clear. Thank you.
Okay.
Great question, Jamie. Anybody else questions for Kathy?
Hi, it's Vicki. So I'm understanding kind of the development of, I guess, the campaign idea and the pitch deck. And is the goal then to raise funds from the different partner organizations to then have resources to push out the messaging to broader target audiences, to bring people into the fold. And then kind of what's the measure of success? Because there's sort of the piece of developing the campaign and developing the idea, but then the piece of like, how do you actually get that idea and that messaging in front of people? And then, you know, how do you measure the success of that? And I think one of the things about the past programs, you know, it was very clear, here's the measure of success, whether it was how many people showed up at those challenges, or how many people were able to take the writing lessons, how many organizations we had certified. I think sometimes with the media campaigns, you know, how are we going to measure the success of this, and how are we going to make sure the message is getting out to the right people?
Yeah. You guys might be better equipped to answer that question actually than I am. So my understanding is, yeah, the goal would be to gain support, for financial support, essentially, from other organizations, and that the execution of this campaign actually gets funded in large part from their contribution. That's right, Julie. Isn't that how we've talked about that? So that's that part. I do think the KPI thing is a little bit tricky, and that might be something we need to just spend some time on when we're working on strategy, to talk about what are the data streams that we're going to actually have access to measure. I mean, certainly, you know, broadly of sort of clicks and eyeballs and all that stuff is easy enough to do. I know that's been difficult for you to gauge in the current execution of, you know, of the barns that participated, and we're going to do writing lesson packages. You know, how of the total universe of barns, how many did that? And do we call that success? And then of the people who signed up and did a lesson, did they stay with it? I think that data stream gets a little bit soft, as I understand it. So I think that does require some more discussion. And I don't know if that's sort of organization by organization. So let's say USCF wants to participate and pick up something. How does that layer into their particular efforts? And is there something we can track there? And maybe that's the way to think about it, is just by partner that's funding. Could we set up KPIs with each of them as a way to measure? And then maybe there is a broader kind of higher level sort of media based metric that we can use there. I don't know. I mean, it sounds like that's been a bit of a sticky place for you guys to, you know, sort of get what you need.
Yeah, I think it's kind of a macro micro situation, right?
Yeah.
The programs before were in a way micro, right? They're very hands-on, and, you know, tracking that kind of stuff is difficult. The certification program getting to scale, I think, is difficult. And then coming from a media-based approach, I think measuring, you know, what's the actual conversion, and then what's, you know, with a broad message versus going to the individual business or organization messaging. You know, we're talking about such a broad scope of really driving interest in horses overall, you know, having a way that ultimately that loop closes, where you're able to say, this is how many people are engaged in this way or that way. Like at the end, what are we trying to accomplish? I listen, this is always one of the hardest questions about marketing in general. I think we're all asked this question all the time.
Very true,
But
very true.
I just put it forward to see what the response was. Thank you.
Okay, anybody? We probably got time for one more question, and then we need to wrap up. Anybody got something burning? If a question comes to you later, stick it in the chat or email me, and I'll come back. I'll go to Kathy and come back around with her response if we don't get to it right now.
Julie, it's Bill. I have a quick question for you. And
Oh, sure. Hi, Bill.
I'm not sure it's answerable at the moment, but I think one of the critical things is this is third time around, right?
This will be
Okay.
fourth time around.
Fourth time. Okay, that worries me even more. Okay, so 4 times, everyone's been asked to step up and support and invest and do all this. I think you need a message that's very succinct as to why this time is different. You know, if you're coming to any of the organizations involved or to the sponsors who have supported the different reiterations of Time to Ride, whether it's cash or cash by use of service resources, et cetera, I think you got to have a sales pitch because, you know, and then you, to Vicky's point, we're going to have some measurement because I remember the last time when we sort of did this differently and everybody got really excited this third time through and pitched in and have been working hard on it, but we're not gaining ground again. So now we're coming with another campaign, another approach, which, hey, try again, but it gets harder to sell when we try again to the people that we need the money from, or we need the work effort, resources, et cetera. So I would just say, you know, I think it's important to work with the different marketing people on how to sell it to everybody, you know, to go around again. So.
Very fair point, Bill. Very fair point.
Yeah, I think that's right, Bill, too. I think that the sort of pitch, value, story, deliverable here has to do that. I think it has to say why it's different, I think it has to set expectations of what might, you know, be a different outcome, why we think the campaign idea is better, different. I think that's right. It's hard to go back to the well twice, much less 4 times. So I'm with you on that.
Great. Thanks, Kathy. I really appreciate it. And
Thank
very
you.
well, very nice deck, and I'll try to get that off to everybody. So have a great day, Kathy. I'll be in touch.
Thanks, everybody. Sorry about the tech challenges.
No worries. No worries.
See ya.